I'm Mark Seifter.
And I'm Linda Zeiss-Palmer.
And this is Arcane Mark.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Arcane Mark. Today, we're going to be continuing the tale of my adventures with Skull and Shackles, Part 8.
That's right. As we head closer towards the end of Book 4 here in Part 8.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you remember from our previous episodes, we had sort of dipped our toes into the old Pirate Fort dungeon, got completely scared away from it, and then went and did the Cyclops dungeon instead. But before we go back to that Pirate Fort dungeon, now that we've cleared out the Cyclops dungeon, let's have a quick reminder for those of you who aren't binging these Skull and Shackles episodes one after the other on YouTube in 2025 or whenever you're watching this. Let's mention the 5 characters very quickly.
Aaron Wetfoot, Halfling Hydrokineticist. Mobile Artillery.
Also, he has air.
He does have air powers by this point. Tethys Kybele, Tall Tail Spinning Harrowed Medium Tiefling.
That's right.
Those are my characters. Mm-hmm. And I am also the GM. Mark.
That's true. Also, Tethys is also the quartermaster in addition to the Tall Tail Spinner.
That is true.
Then I've got Rin Ilium, or Mirani, but she always goes by Rin. She is the captain and commander. She is a free captain, commander of our fleet of ships. And her brother, Hector... Okay, Rin is a swashbuckler. Her brother, Hector, who is a shaman of the sea and the waves, who doesn't know that his spirit is... of waves is actually Besmara, and who started out as a wave spirit. He's very skeptical of Besmara, whereas Rin is incredibly devoted to Besmara and the idea of running around doing adventures, daring deeds to keep Besmara interested and taking a bunch of treasure.
Rin is definitely more devout to Besmara than the average cleric of Besmara.
Mm-hmm. That's true, because we have a NPC cleric of Besmara, Sandara, who is less into the whole Besmara thing, despite being a cleric. And then my third character that I am playing is Tai, Mr. Tai. She is, her full name is Antiope, but she doesn't like that. It sounds too silly, so she goes by Tai. She's a brawler. She likes to beat things up. She is the master gunner for the fleet as a whole, and generally is prepared for whatever is going to happen. Plus, there's some familiars for Rusa the Coral Capuchin and spirit animal Pontus, emissary of the sea, a very particular tide pool dragon.
So the general context here is that the PCs have recently won the Free Captain's Regatta, and they have been granted a wonderful pirate island of their very own. And by wonderful, I mean...
It's like the worst island they could think of.
In the entire Shackles, probably, because this island is just full of horrific dangers. I
mean, you could say we were lucky because the druid who was always like, I'm a high-level druid, I always win this race with lots of storms every year in a row, so nobody gets an island because I've already won. Somebody decided for him that he had to not participate this year.
Yeah, he had to be the judge.
So at least that was the case.
Yeah.
Like, our random kineticist, not quite cheating because it's legal and the druid could do it, but our weird kineticist taking control of like the wind and the waves was the reason that we won, but the druid would have been able to do it by more than we did.
How do you think that druid constantly won?
Yes,
those
exactly.
Those are totally within the rules.
It would have canceled out and exceeded our not cheating if he was in there, so it was good that he wasn't.
Yeah. So, but this island had a variety of dangers. There was that they went around it, but there was an old abandoned Hellish fort, which had been
a pirate fort after that for some kind of, we found his apprentice, and it was some kind of illusionist wizard pirate who was according to we would try to calm down his apprentice because his apprentice had like basically lost his mind due to being gaslighted by animate dreams, and we encountered animate dreams just once, and we didn't want to go back there again for a while.
So they weren't the PCs dipped their toe into this whole abandoned Chellish Fort dungeon, and then they said, we're gonna do everything else on this island and then come back.
We also wanted to have some time for the guy who we had rescued to, like, calm down, and maybe he could tell us something coherent that would help us strategize about the area.
So they explored the entire island, contending with threats such as packs of fiendish harpies. And a large base of cyclopses with multiple powerful generals. And now we're at the point in the story where they've decided, okay, it's time to go back and finish dealing with this dangerous fort.
Yeah. And we went and we talked to the apprentice. We found out what he understood was like that the pirate who had gone there was an illusionist wizard pirate who was like trying to do some kind of like weird and out there wizardly ritual thing or make an item, and I
think you knew it had to do with like some kind of weird stone.
Yeah,
in dreams
he
that he had.
He had a stone, and from what we could tell from this guy, our interpretation was that this wizard was like, I don't want to become a lich, that's dumb, but I'll do a equivalent thing with dream magic instead of necromancy, so I'm not like a dead person. But still make myself immortal, and he teamed up with a night hag or something that he had brought in, according to the apprentice, and then everything went bad. So like,
who could have predicted that everything would go
went bad, and everyone started dying, and there were like all the pirates except the apprentice were killed, and like. Their ghosts are around, and the dreams are coming after him, and it was...
and the whole place is hideously haunted,
and there's spiders, and that's what he was saying.
Yeah.
So, that sounded pretty awful. But we took that in mind, and we thought about what kinds of creatures those might be.
And you had indeed found this really weird orange stone that was in this bizarre temple-like thing in the heart of the Cyclops compound as well.
That's true. So, we realized that the spiders he was talking about might be potentially like ether spiders from the ethereal plane. Also sometimes known as phase spiders because they can phase between the ethereal plane and the material plane. But maybe not. And we already knew we didn't like the animate dreams, but Ty had picked up some ranks in knowledge of religion so that she can brawlerly... take this one player companion feat that lets her deal with incorporeal creatures, which she previously didn't qualify for. So that's a big plus for us now. We're multiple levels higher, I think. At least one, maybe two.
I think one or two, I don't remember
we
exactly.
have a genie now and some other friends, so we decided that we're going to try this place again and hopefully not have to deal with the horror of being constantly confused and phantasmally killered.
Yeah. Another one of the things that you learn from The Apprentice is that this place is way worse at night. Because that's when he hears the howling of the unquiet spirits the most. So you guys made a point of not ever coming here at night.
That's right. But by the time we came back, we still had to deal with the haunt of like the souls again, which we had to do on the way in the first time. It had come back. So we did that. We went back, and we continued dealing with the main fort area before going to that big tower and the final.
So yeah, you had to contend with a variety of threats like groups of will-o-wisps and the crawling hands of cyclopses that were coming out for you in swarms and all sorts of other ridiculous.
And eventually the spiders, I think, were out in the main fort area as well.
Yeah, the phase spiders did come out to the main fort area as well.
They noticed us fighting with the will-o-wisps and decided they were going to stalk us, but forewarned is forearmed, and we managed to take them down, in part thanks to Hector coming in hot with Dimensional Anchor for their leader, who was like a named phase spider.
Yeah, Peta, the phase spider rogue.
Mm-hmm.
Who, like many female characters in this AP, has red hair.
That's true. She's a spider.
Uh-huh.
And we were able to figure out from the phase spiders that they were here working for a different night hag than the original night hag.
Yes.
Supposedly, the first night hag had disappeared somehow when she was supposedly making deals with this wizard, and no one had heard from her. So her sister, another night hag, had come with her minions to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, but Petra and her fellow face spiders could not find this guy that they kept looking for, the illusionist wizard, and they were getting pretty frustrated with the fact that as much as they searched for him, they couldn't find him.
That's right. So we
as
figured that out.
It turns out, someone who thinks that a night hag might betray them has some kind of precautions against being found by the types of servitors that a night hag might have.
Yep. So eventually, I think we realized that obviously that big tower and some of the underground areas connected to it were where we needed to go. But I think we may have found an underground passage and gone into the tower like a weird back way.
Yeah, I remember you coming in from the bottom of the tower.
Yes. So there may have been another building that was in the fort that is actually connected basement-wise to the tower.
Yeah, here, it's in the cellar. Here, you came down into this room.
So we wound up coming into it from...
Our camera needs adjusting?
Our camera needs adjusting. Okay. Is it up too high? How about this?
Is that better?
I mean, that looks reasonable. So, we wound up coming into it from the other building that looks like it's connected from there.
You just see Merc's forehead? Is that better now? It shows up
normally
on
it shows up normally to us.
On our projection.
Alright. So, tilting it down worked, it looks like.
Okay.
Alright, so yeah, we came in from maybe even the basement of another building that connects in there somehow. And in that basement, I think that we found some legitimate stuff.
Yeah, that was.
I think we may have found a ghost there.
Well, yeah, the ghost of Bikendi himself.
Yes.
The illusionist.
The illusionist ghost, Bikende Untungo or something like that. And so he was maybe not quite a ghost. Isn't exactly the right word for what he is, but we thought it was basically a ghost.
It's basically a ghost.
And we found him in there, and he made us a proposition and tried to explain his take, or at least what he decided he was going to tell us about what happened with him.
Yeah, so he asked you to let one of you. He asked you to let him temporarily possess one of you, so he could just finish that ritual. And in that case, he would tell you the location of a great treasure hoard, and his spirit would pass on, and you would then reclaim your body after that. That is what he claimed would happen.
We decided that was not true.
And he was not happy about that. He could also sense that you had that stone from the Cyclops Ruin, the Immortal Dreamstone, which was a key portion of completing his ritual. So he thought, well, yeah, I'm going to attack them and take it, and then I'll find someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'll find someone else, or I'll try to, keep one of them alive, keep one of the PCs alive, and then possess that PC, finish the ritual, and then leave that one PC to survive in the end.
That's right.
But, the PCs did not want to. The PCs did not want to.
We did not want to let him possess us because he's a sketchy. He's a sketchy ghost, and we didn't necessarily trust him and what he was going to do.
And you also didn't necessarily trust that sketchy stone that you found in the Cyclops ruins that he seemed to want so much.
We didn't. So, we found out a little more from him about the fact that, that it was... He had dealt with a night hag, and basically it pulled her heartstone, and it destroyed the night hag. It wasn't that she betrayed him, it is that he managed to turn the tables on her when she was trying to betray him.
Yes.
And pull out her power into it.
You can't backstab me if I backstab you first.
That's right. He knew she was planning on betraying him because he had figured it out, so he turned the tables on her instead. But our attempts to force him to explain what was going on with the ritual so that we would maybe agree to let him do the ritual convinced us that some variation of the ritual he at least claimed he wanted to do would actually be beneficial because it would help the haunts leave the area and pull things off into the dreamlands where it would be not necessarily harmful to anyone here. So we decided that we were not going to let him possess anyone, but that we would take his notes and information and do that part of the ritual because we needed this island not to be haunted.
Yeah.
And we couldn't keep the status quo of just, not doing anything. He's a ghost, so what... We destroy him, he'll come back
and
the
he'll
haunts
be like,
are gonna come back.
come back, the haunts will come back, and it's like, are you gonna agree to do the ritual now?
Yep. So, we figured that there was some chance that destroying the stone would get rid of him, but it might still not get rid of the other haunts, and we thought that the ritual was probably the safest bet, or at least having Hector do the ritual so that with his own understanding of what he was doing, in case this guy who found a way to turn the tables on a night hag decided to do not that ritual and a different ritual.
Oh yes, I possessed you and now I'm going to sacrifice you as a conduit for the ritual.
Yes.
Or something like that.
We did not trust him for that, but we did get him to back down somewhat by telling him we were going to do the ritual, and at least part of his head gains, if he was going to betray us, was that he couldn't, admit that he was going to betray us and do something else, so he had to be like, oh yeah, but I should do it because I'm better at doing the ritual.
And you might mess it up.
But he still had to be, generally not antagonistic, and we also threatened to destroy the stone, which we thought might destroy him completely, and it seemed he may have thought that too, because it got him to behave. So... We wound up having to go back down from that area into the tower itself. I think that was maybe where we had to do the ritual, but there were other encounters in there.
Yeah. Well, you also found his
body.
He found his body.
It had a lot of treasure.
You found his body, which had a lot of treasure, and I remember he was trying to offer you all his great treasures at one point. And you're and you guys were like, I bet it's still on your body that's in this tower somewhere. So we defeat you. We can just take it.
We can just get it anyway. Even if we temporarily defeat you,
yes.
We can take it, and you can't. That's not really an offer. That is correct.
And you also found a strange misaligned teleportation circle that you were able to repair that allowed.
We realized it would teleport back to the Cyclops dungeon with the other teleportation circle we had found that didn't work. I think we didn't quite mention it at the end of the last time, but we found one. It didn't really work, so it just sort of sent us into the air in a random spot because it didn't have another side.
But once those are fixed, then it would give you an ability to teleport between two of the locations on your base island, which is pretty spiffy. Which
we absolutely kept to ourselves, but used when we had guests over on the island as a major advantage to let us bring troops back and forth almost immediately from the heart of the island to the coastal, visitation fort. Is definitely useful.
But those were the main, threats.
Wasn't there something in the tower?
Other than him?
Yeah.
Let me double check here.
That was in the basement, but...
well, I mentioned
I can't remember anything in the tower.
I mentioned the crawling hand swarms.
Oh yeah, those were in the tower. That's right. You mentioned them at the beginning, but those were... Yeah. That's right, when we were going up the tower and then we got attacked by all the hands. Absolutely. Because when I was picturing the fort itself, and you said there were will-o-wisps, I was like, oh yeah, and you said the hands, I was like, I don't remember those in the fort, but they were in the tower. They were in one of the upper floors, and they just came swarming out. Not even legitimately only a swarm, there were just a lot of singleton crawling hands.
It was not the mechanical term swarm.
Yeah.
It was a large number of them.
But I think there is like a crawling hand swarm.
Yeah, but it's much lower CR creatures.
These were giant crawling hands, if I recall correctly.
They were. They were
rather than the regular
crawling hands.
hands. The ones that were like, the whole hand was almost the size of a person because they were from the hand of a really big creature.
Yeah, they were like initially Cyclops hands, but they were necromantically enlarged, and
That's right, they were engorged. It is gross.
It was gross.
So, yeah, the ritual was successful.
Not as gross as one of those early Dungeons of Hell's Rebels that we were just playing today.
I don't know, maybe equally gross.
Oh, fair enough, fair enough.
I mean, doesn't they have like necrotic pus coming out of them?
Yeah.
So,
okay, fair enough.
We managed to do the Dreamstone thing, and it sent off the haunts and the ghost into the Dreamlands where they would not bother us.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had a fortress that was not haunted anymore and had no more Amit dreams and will-o-wisps and all the bad things. And we thought like maybe that other night hag was going to be there, but she wasn't. She just sent all of her minions.
She sent all of her minions, expecting them to take care of it for her.
Yep.
And she did not necessarily want to come back after all of her minions and everything had been defeated. That did not seem like a wise course of action for her.
That's right.
You guys also found, despite that, one of the things that that the ghost offered was to tell you the location of a hidden treasure cove that was somewhere on this island. And so you guys did not take him up on that offer, but then instead decided to yourself search for the hidden treasure cove that was somewhere on this island.
Was that like the illusion place?
That was the one that had like symbol of insanity and jellyfish, and it was blocked up by
Savannah.
It was a Savannah temple that was blocked by illusions and abjurations.
Okay, great.
You managed to find, yes.
This whole time I was thinking it was on this island, but I was like, we went to so many islands. Maybe it was another island. Mm-hmm. But when you were doing like the outside areas, in my head I was like, wasn't there a Savannah temple that we're missing?
But that one was super well hidden, so you guys didn't necessarily know, oh, it's time to go back and comb for something super well hidden until the ghost was like, well, there's this hidden whatever, and it didn't match any of the things that you guys had done.
That's right. I think actually that like we also wheedled more clues about it out of him as part of saying we would do the ritual, but we weren't going to let him do it.
Yeah.
So we went to the Savannah temple at that point, or not temple, but it may have been, I can't remember.
It was a holy shrine.
It was a holy shrine to Savannah. Yeah. The goddess of illusions and veils.
Oh, right. You know, that's what it was. That's what it was. He had a map in his journal.
Oh, yeah. That is what it was. I knew we did get clues from him. Mm-hmm. But he couldn't stop us from getting the map in his journal. Even if we didn't make it the exact deal that he wanted. So we found our way to it. It was extremely illusioned and definitely had a symbol of insanity on it. I remember that.
Yeah, and the waters were infested with sharks, and there was this maze of razor-sharp coral, which, you know, is a chance for the coral capuchin to shine for being the one who can help you navigate safely through that without getting yourselves cut to ribbons.
As Farusa might say.
Mm-hmm. And it was a Cyclops shrine to Savannah in particular, so it had sort of a Cyclops image of Savannah in there. And there was also I
mean, nobody knows what the real form of Savannah is anyway.
I don't think Savannah has a single form.
She has 7 guises. Yeah. That are like the 7 veils of Savannah or something like that.
And you found, and then there was a giant sapphire jellyfish there who was guarding Vikendi's other treasure room, where you were able to get even more treasure because it wasn't all on his body.
Extra treasure.
It was sort of the treasure of his crew that was hidden away in this place.
That's right. So we had a lot of treasure. There was some good stuff. And our treasure hoard was being guarded now by a giant lurker above hiding in the hold of our flagship. Because, you know, it wasn't like... There were multiple times before that either somebody tried to sneak into our ship and steal our treasure, or gremlins were trying to curse our treasure and only Pontus could stop them. So now that we had a lurker above there, our treasure was pretty set. So at this point, we had cleared out the island like we were told we had to do as our final test to become a full pirate lord.
Mm-hmm.
Or particularly, I suppose,
Rin.
Rin was going to become a pirate lord, although I think they decided, like, randomly that they wanted to, like,
elevate a bunch of the other PCs too.
To pack the pirate council
Yeah.
with the PCs, because multiple political factions in the pirate council both wanted more votes, and each thought that they were going to get more votes with these new people on the pirate council. So they decided to pack the pirate council by letting all of the PCs become pirate lords.
Because they had all done so awesome, and they could share an island.
We found out when we told them the island's clear. It's
yes.
like, you all will, but you have to share this island. You don't get separate islands.
Mm-hmm.
So they were kind of confused. Hector was like, I don't know if I want to be a pirate lord. I mean, I know we're all pirates, but, like, I'm just mostly here with you guys, and now I'm going to be a pirate lord.
I'm just mostly also here.
Yeah, I'm mostly also here, like, protecting you guys from danger, rather than, like, 'cause yay, gung-ho pirate, and now I'm going to be a pirate lord. He eventually decided that it was better to have a vote in the pirate council that they're going to give him than to not have one. Even if he voted against the rest of the crew for whatever he wanted to do.
Yes. Whereas everybody else was pretty happy to accept the promotion.
Mm-hmm. That's right. So that meant that we were able to go to Pirate Council meetings, and also that we had the honor of being forced to pay for our money to hold a giant party for all the pirate lords at our island to show off that it was now not horribly haunted and was in good shape, and that everybody could come there for a party. I think was the party before the first council meeting.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I thought so. Possibly because they wanted to inspect it, make sure we actually cleared
the island. Yes. So while you were sort of going around and making your preparations for this, you guys heard some rumors of a shipment of smuggled rum that would be leaving Hell's Harbor for Chiliax, and that if aboard a ship called the Jester's Grin, and that if you were able to liberate the rum from that ship, then you would have plentiful libations for your party.
Mm-hmm. So we quickly liberated some rum, and we brought the rum to the party. And we got just like a whole bunch.
Yeah, I mean it wasn't like completely trivial, because there was this because that was where you guys ran into the arcane trickster enchanter hybrid were-rat Fargo Vitterand, who was defending that stuff.
I barely even remember him. He must have been he must have easily been killed. I remember him more from being a card in adventure card game.
I didn't say that you guys didn't have an easy time with him. I just said it wasn't completely trivial.
That's fair. Like, there was an evoker captain who the duel with that evoker was non-trivial because the evoker was a coward and tried to fly away or something like that and not duel. But Vitterand, I don't think, put up much of a fight. I think we pretty easily got the rum and a whole bunch of other supplies, and we set up our party, and it was going to be great. All these pirate lords were coming, and we went through our pirate lord lore to make sure, because Rin has Profession Sailor, which is basically pirate lore.
Yeah.
And knows all of the pirate lords, and if there was like trading cards for the pirate lords, probably
she would totally have them. Yeah, no, I can imagine that.
And she was like, okay, so there's this. She knew all the sub factions. Like, there's several that are from like the islands where they are like originally from Tian Sha pirates, and she's like, okay, in that group there's 3 pirates, and these 2 hate each other, and this one is in the middle, and
yeah. We definitely spent time with the Isles of the Shackles campaign setting, and Mark rolled like super high on it, so I was like, so here's all the folks you know who are pirate lords and what their deal is.
And then there's Tessa.
Yes.
And then there's this one who is like Tessa's lapdog.
And then And then there's this one who basically just keeps to her salt mines on this island, and there's this one who generally rules from this area. There's so many.
That's
of them.
right. There was like one who's Tessa's current lapdog, one who was like Tessa's former protege, and it's unclear how they interact. Was there someone named Cerise?
Yes, Lady Cerise Bloodborne.
Yeah. Is she the one who was Tessa's former?
I think so. Yeah, and then there was like Captain Mace Dramar, and there was all sorts of.
There are a lot of them. There's a werewolf who was the leader of one of the major islands. He was one of the stronger pirate lords. I can't remember his name.
Avamar?
Yeah, Avamar Soranash.
Yes.
Then there's the Master of Gales, of course, the druid that we have been talking about before. Tessa had her faction. The Hurricane King, of course, is on the council and has his own faction of people who are loyalists to him.
There were a lot of folks.
There's a lot of pirate lords, and they all had their own pirate thing. There was a guy who was like a green-haired guy, like pirate aquatic elf.
That's Mace Daravar.
Oh, that's Mace Daravar.
Yeah,
I couldn't remember who Mace Daravar was. That was him.
Yeah, he's the he's the very Gosrin.
That's right.
The very Gosrin guy who is not the Master of Gales.
Got it. There's a lot of very Gosrin folks.
Yes.
And pirates. They're all pirates.
True.
Alright, so we basically just had a lot of pirates who were coming over, and they were all pirate lords, so they were like even more arrogant than normal pirate captains. And
having even more of a taste for things that cost ridiculous amounts of money.
That's right.
But of course, it wouldn't be an event that the PCs put on in an adventure path if everything went perfectly smoothly and according to plan.
Mm-hmm. Because little do we know that the notorious assassin and saboteur known as the Eel had not been invited, but was planning on showing up.
The Eel had invited himself to the festivities.
And this, everyone who's watching, is where some of the random things that we did earlier on in Book 4 are going to wind up helping us out.
Mm-hmm.
So, was there anything else that happened other than the eel, or was it just that the eel set up a lot of contingencies?
You guys had a chance to give folks a tour of the fort and to do some little games.
We showed off a lot.
Tempest
told the stories of everything, and it sounded ridiculous about like the Dimension of Dreams super phylactery and all this stuff, but it was like actually true.
There was music. And there was drinking. Lady Bloodborne challenged Rin to a duel.
She totally
did. And
did.
Had the floor wiped with her.
Yes. It was one of the only times that someone else challenged Rin to a duel rather than Rin challenge. Rin, the undefeated at duels, challenging everyone else to duels.
A bunch of rats came out of the cellar in your kitchen that you had to quickly deal with.
That was part of the
Yeah, that's true.
When the rats came out.
That's kind of when
and Hector saw that he realized that there was some intentional sabotage. So he was working behind the scenes with some of the NPCs, because pretty much all the other PCs were on the scene. So he was working behind the scenes with like the genie and the Bethany the rogue, and is Valia the name of the Merit or whatever her name is.
I think that's the name of the Merit.
Like
it's definitely the name of one of the NPCs who had shown up recently.
Yeah, so he was working behind the scenes with them after the rats because he was like, "There's no chance that this happened on its own. We prepared for this. In fact, like the eel would have gotten away with a lot more if he did not release the rats."
Yes.
So
the eel had a plan to poison people by having a poison that came together in two halves. One that was in the rum and one that was in the food. Both of those components were undetectable as poison because they were harmless on their own, but when combined would be poisonous.
That's right. And so we had checked things for poison just in case, because we knew Chalice was out there, but we didn't know about this.
Mm-hmm.
But Hector became extra paranoid because of the rats, so he started doing an even more thorough search. And that's just like he checked the food again and is like, okay, obviously detect poison, didn't find anything, but because the rum, you're never going to find poison with detect poison, but he checked the food again and just actually did an analysis of it, an alchemical analysis, and found out, oh, there's a alchemical reagent that is part of a poison that you might not have noticed with a very high roll. And the way he did that, by the way, when we say Hector did an alchemical analysis, if you remember back when we did Spices and Flesh, Legendary Game Supplement, earlier on, we have this alchemist who tried to murder us when we tried to be reasonable with him, and we just trapped him in a room and forced him to do alchemy for us, and we kept giving him new formulas, and eventually he decided that he was more okay with us because we told him we were going to give him formulas. He just had to keep giving us extracts. We let him do his alchemical research. And so Hector forced him to do an analysis just to make sure. The guy was like, wow, this is beyond me by a lot. But it is part of a poison. So Hector didn't want Rin to be embarrassed by this. So he came out and he surreptitiously was replacing some of the things in the food. He didn't know where the second half of it was, but that he checked a bunch of places and found that it was in the rum. And he managed to, just without letting anyone know that he had done this, substitute so that no one would have both halves of the poison. Except that the eel had independently also done some other kind of poisoning thing with Avanar Soranash that was going to cause his werewolf to go out of control.
Yes.
That was not the same as the things that Hector caught, because it was a contact poison where the eel was actually came in and put it on him or something I can't remember. We never figured out exactly what the eel did.
The eel laced one of his drinks with something stronger independently.
By hand. So that Hector didn't have a chance to stop it. And so Avanar Soranash wolfed out.
Yeah.
And we managed to deal with it right away without him messing up with any of the guests, and help him get back down out of wolf form without him losing face, getting too beaten up by the group. All while revealing, at that point Hector revealed that he knew about the eel all along. In fact, actually the alchemist from Spices and Flesh eventually was able to figure out this is probably the eel. There's no one else who's good enough to do this. So the
eel did not themselves directly come in and be like, oh, I'm the eel. You found out when you were investigating around, okay, seriously, what happened with him? That one of your serving staff had given him a specially prepared drink at the request of a beautiful woman who wanted to give that to him.
Well, that's what it was.
Yeah, so it's oh yeah, so there was a beautiful lady who asked me to give this special gift to him. I'm sorry, I had no idea this is what was going on. And it did the description of it, yeah.
So, yeah, because we didn't bring in new people for the serving staff. We used crew that we trusted, but the eel was just hiding and using disguises. We figured out it was the eel based on that alchemist, though. That alchemist identified the alchemical stuff and said it was probably the eel.
But the thing is, and the part of the reason why is that it wasn't just some random beautiful woman no one had heard of. It was the Nereid Safina, who was one of your allies on this island, who was hey, give this gift. So it was not someone they would be expecting to try to mess you up.
That's right. It was Safina, but it wasn't really Safina because it was the eel using a disguise. An alchemical disguise. So we eventually realized
it was I think that's what I changed it to, because in the original AP he had stolen her shawl and blackmailed him.
Oh, okay.
Blackmailed her, but I think I changed it to a disguise when I ran it. Because she was more loyal to you, but
She was.
In our run, but yeah.
We would have noticed if she didn't have her shawl.
Yes.
Because that would have been really obvious that she wears her shawl. But it definitely, the eel was a master of disguise, at least in the run that you were using, and was very, very good at roguish type skills, despite being an alchemist.
Mm-hmm.
So Hector figured out that that was the disguise, but that the eel probably had switched disguises because that's a very, very obvious disguise. And so figuring out that it was the eel, and telling everyone, okay, we're going to search for the eel together, that triggered the eel's contingencies. The eel decided, had become invisible and was going to invisibly sneak out. But Hector had already used the invisibility because he thought that the eel might do that. And before even coming out and saying that. And his perception was very high. So, Linda said I got lucky on this, but I barely noticed him sneaking out of the place.
Yeah.
So, we followed him back to the port where he had set up before even... he was like a halfling in reality. He's not in disguise, by the way. He had set up all of the ships of the pirate lords to go up in flames.
He had rigged them up with huge amounts of explosives that he was planning to set up.
If he had enough time, that he would be able to completely burn them out. But we kind of forked him. I don't mean that as like a euphemism, but actually like a chess fork.
Yeah.
Where we were after him with with not that much time for him to go. Mm-hmm. So he's able to start the incendiaries, and then he's called the eel because he has like some kind of eel skin armor that makes him super fast at swimming, and his stealth goes up.
Also because he's just generally very slippery and impossible to catch.
His stealth and escape artist are really high in the water. Mm-hmm. So he leaps into the water to make his getaway. Unfortunately for the eel, he got neither of the things that he wanted.
Yes. Because
we had, if you remember back from the first episode of Part 4... a giant lake octopus that was living, or lagoon octopus, or whatever. That was guarding that. So Hector called the octopus, which grabbed the eel, and the eel's like, "What? This giant octopus?" And everyone was like, "What? We just went into a cove that had this giant octopus." It's like, "Yeah, this was our octopus precaution." And then everyone in the party was able to focus fire on the fire.
Yeah.
And it had just barely started. Whereas I think as the events go, if we hadn't had such a paranoid Hector doing all of these things behind the scenes, like these counter agents, like we were supposed to get there by the time the fires were pretty.
Yeah, there's sort of a round by round thing that
pretty spread. Yeah. Like by the time you notice them from the party.
The expectation is that you're in combat with Safina, who's been forced to do this, and then even on round one. And then, even on round one, the events start, and then there's this round by round thing that goes through up through round 52, and if you go all the way to 52, then all of their ships are completely annihilated.
Right, but we wouldn't have even necessarily noticed the fire right away.
Yeah, but the bombs start going off. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I know that you probably had your own version of the timeline that was
I certainly advanced the timeline because I knew that you guys were... I knew that if it was a timeline like this, that the rest of the timeline beyond the first point wouldn't matter. So, So yeah, they were. This is where it helped. This was the giant octopus, and not the rest of their undersea crew that helped them out to defeat the eel here. So, the PCs generally, the way that
thanks for gifting some subs,
for the gift subs,
Outro.
The way that the AP generally tracks how well the PCs are doing is with a scale called respect points. And it's funny because one of the things on the respect point list is slaying the giant octopus of the bay, but I gave you guys those points anyway because using the giant octopus to completely screw over an opponent by taming the giant octopus seemed like it should definitely count for those points.
And then we showed off that the giant octopus was our friend to help protect our...
So you got basically max.
We did have to give away to the other pirate lords that we have a giant octopus there as one of our defenses, and it might spread out. So it's no longer a secret defense, but...
Yeah, but you guys definitely at the end of this, the other pirate lords were like, okay, not only did they clear this island out, they're not just all hot air. There's something more to these. They're not just all hot air. They're not just all tall tales. There's actually like, no, this is legit. These people are ridiculous.
Yep.
We've seen it with our own eyes.
We managed to capture the eel, which is something that no one had done.
Yes.
Who was under the employ of Cheliax. And we tried to offer the eel the urine alchemist, so therefore make us all the alchemy deal. The eel was like, I'd rather die.
And then, so the PCs granted his wish.
Yep.
And they took his alchemical formula.
We were already a little iffy because we knew the eel was so slippery that the eel might escape if we made that deal.
Yeah.
And the eel was too dangerous and slippery to live if not for our greed of wanting to get those alchemical extracts.
But you know, your basement alchemist was very happy to have the eel's waterproof formula book.
Yes.
So it's certainly
that was when we truly gained the loyalty of that.
Because it's
that
like,
basement
here you go,
alchemist.
the formula
This is
book
the
of the
formula
most
book
legendary
of
the most legendary alchemist in the Shackles.
Yep.
It's yours now.
That's right.
And then he's like, you know what? You're alright. I'll just work for you
also, now. Like, it was a mixture of, like, admiration and fear, because we also had just defeated the eel.
Well, but I mean, that's the way that he put it. It's like, I'll work for you now. You guys are cool.
Mm-hmm.
With the oh god, don't kill me was something you needed sense motive to detect. Not that you couldn't, but...
Yeah.
So yeah, that was with that we wrap up the story of part 4.
I think it was very interesting, and the eel had a lot of really interesting precautions, and honestly, I thought I was just playing Hector as overly paranoid when I was doing these things with Linda, and he brought the NPCs behind the scenes, but at first, because he was actually checking for things even before the rats appeared, but as soon as the rats appeared, his paranoia went up, and then out of character I also thought, okay, there's something going on too.
Well, you know, because there's definitely been other times that we haven't mentioned that Hector has spent a lot of time being paranoid, and it's just been like, okay, yeah, you know, he rolls a couple checks, and it's like, you're pretty sure that there's nothing bad going on here.
Oh, yeah.
But this time I think it was very gratifying.
He's there looking out for his low wisdom sister, who's never the one looking out for things like that in the background. And certainly, it made it easier for when they did offer Pirate Lore to everyone, for people who were like, Hector himself thought he wasn't necessarily that much of a pirate, and maybe some of the other pirates would have thought that too, but even like the chaotic evil werewolf guy and some of the others had seen Hector behind the scenes outmaneuver the eel.
So they're like, okay, he might seem like kind of a dweeb, but actually he's crafty enough to outmaneuver the eel.
He's like the eel of their crew. He's not necessarily as like prominently out there being piratey, but he's
got some cutting to him.
Yep.
All right, so why don't we go ahead and say goodbye to YouTube?
Bye, YouTube.
Bye.